Captain Jun Kim knew they were in trouble the moment the sky turned red. He stood on the roof of the Seoul Defense Headquarters, watching as the massive ships broke through the clouds. They were unlike anything humans had built, smooth, curved, almost alive. His radio buzzed with panicked reports from around the world. These visitors had arrived everywhere at once. "Sir, we have orders," said Sergeant Min, breaking Jun's trance. "All units to defensive positions." Jun nodded, taking one last look at the ships. "Let's go." 12 hours later, Jun crouched behind a broken wall, the remains of what had been a school that morning. His squad of 10 was down to 4. The aliens, the Mach, as they called themselves in their first and only message, moved with impossible speed. "They're not normal," whispered Private Jin, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. "Did you see how fast they move? How strong they are?" Jun had seen it. He'd watched a Mach soldier lift a car and throw it at his men. He'd seen them dodge bullets, not with luck, but with reflexes that seemed to border on seeing the future. "We need to fall back," Jun said. "Regroup with any forces left in the city center." A crash sounded to their right. Jun turned to see a Mach soldier land on top of a nearby truck. Up close, they looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But everything was wrong. The proportions, the gray-green skin, the eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Run," Jun shouted, but it was too late for 2 of his men. The Mach moved in a blur, covering 20 meters in what seemed like an instant. Its arm, longer than a human's with an extra joint, swung out and caught Sergeant Min across the chest. Min flew backward, his body hitting the wall with a sickening crack. Private Jin raised his rifle, but the Mach was already moving again. It grabbed Jin's gun and crushed it with one hand, then lifted Jin by the throat. "Weak," the Mach said in perfect, emotionless Korean. "Your kind is so weak." Jun fired his pistol. The shots hit the Mach in the shoulder, but it barely seemed to notice. It turned to look at Jun with flat, yellow eyes. "Interesting," it said. "You keep fighting when you cannot win." Lieutenant Da, the last of Jun's squad besides himself, threw a grenade. The explosion knocked the Mach backward, forcing it to drop Jin. "Now," Da yelled, grabbing Jin and running toward a narrow alley between buildings. Jun followed, firing behind him to slow the Mach down. They ran through the maze of Seoul's back streets, the sounds of destruction growing more distant. After 20 minutes of zigzagging through the city, they finally stopped to catch their breath in an abandoned subway station. "What were those things?" Jin asked, holding his bruised throat. "They're not just aliens. They're something else. They've been engineered," said a new voice. Jun turned to see a woman in a lab coat emerging from the shadows. Her clothes were dirty and torn, but she carried herself with authority. "Dr. Soo Park," she said. "Defense Science Division. I've been studying the enemy since they landed." "What do you mean, engineered?" Jun asked. Dr. Park held up a small device. "I managed to scan one of their bodies. Their DNA, if you can call it that, has been modified. Enhanced muscles, reinforced bones, extra nerve clusters for faster reactions. They've been designed for war." "Can they be killed?" Dai asked. "Yes," Dr. Park nodded, "but they're many times stronger and faster than humans. Our regular tactics won't work." Jun thought of the Mach soldier, how it moved with perfect, practiced efficiency, like a machine. "We need to report this," he said. "Command needs to know what we're facing." "There's a secure facility 10 kilometers from here," Dr. Park said. "If we can reach it, we can transmit this data to all remaining military units." Jun looked at his remaining squad members. They were tired, hurt, but still ready to fight. "Let's move," he said. "The world needs to know what's coming." Outside, the red sky grew darker as more Mach ships arrived. The invasion had only just begun. 3 weeks had passed since the first Mach ships appeared in Earth's skies. The underground bunker that served as humanity's new command center was cold and damp. Dr. Sue Park bent over her microscope, studying tissue samples from a dead mock soldier. "Remarkable," she whispered. The cell structure showed clear signs of artificial enhancement. Each muscle fiber was 3 times denser than human muscle. The nervous system had extra pathways for faster signals. Even the blood carried more oxygen. Captain Jung Kim entered the lab, his uniform torn and dirty from his latest mission. "Any progress?" he asked. Dr. Park looked up, dark circles under her eyes. "Too much progress. These mock weren't born, they were made." She pointed to her computer screen showing scans of the alien's body. "Look here. Their bones have metal woven into them. Their skin is partly synthetic. They don't just have better genes. They've been built from the ground up to be perfect soldiers." June frowned. "If they're so perfect, why haven't they wiped us out yet?" "That's what I've been wondering too," Dr. Park said. "We've lost so much, but we're still fighting." Across the city, in what was once Seoul's largest stadium, High General Vrex of the mock forces was asking the same question. "How are the humans still resisting?" Vrex growled, looking at the map showing the area still under human control. "They should have surrendered by now." His intelligence officer, Sub-Commander Grix, stepped forward. "They are using unexpected tactics, High General. They don't fight like any species we've conquered before." "They are weak," Vrex said. "Their bodies break easily. Their reflexes are slow. Their senses are dull." "Yes, High General, but they adapt quickly. They learn from each defeat." Vrex turned, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Show me." Grix activated a hologram showing a recent battle. Mock soldiers moved with perfect precision, but the humans were fighting in small groups, attacking and retreating in patterns that seemed random. "They change tactics daily," Grix explained. "Our soldiers are programmed for optimal combat, but the humans don't follow combat logic." "It doesn't matter," Vrex said. "We will adjust. We always do." "There is something else," Grix added. "Something strange we've observed in their dwellings." The hologram changed to show images from inside human homes. In many of them were small animals, cats and dogs. "They keep predators as companions," Grix said. "These creatures serve no purpose, yet the humans protect them, even during battle." Vrex dismissed this with a wave. Sentimentality. A weakness. Back in the human bunker, Jun met with Colonel Han and the remaining military leaders. "We've lost 60% of our forces," Colonel Han said grimly. "But we're learning. Each battle teaches us more about the enemy." "They're predictable," Jun added. "They're strong and fast, but they always follow the same attack patterns." Dr. Park entered the room, carrying a tablet. "I've completed my analysis," she announced. "The mock have traded away their adaptability for raw power. Their brains have been altered to make them perfect fighters. But the changes have limits." "What kind of limits?" Colonel Han asked. "They can't improvise well," Dr. Park explained. "Their neural pathways are optimized for specific combat scenarios. When something doesn't fit their programming, there's a delay while they process it." June leaned forward. "That's why my squad survived our first encounter. We didn't fight back. We just ran. They weren't expecting that." Dr. Park nodded. "Exactly. And I think there's something more we can use." She pulled up images from June's bodycam during a recent mission. The footage showed him escaping through narrow alleys, moving in unpredictable patterns that confused the pursuing mock. "You move differently than other soldiers, Captain," she said. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" June looked surprised. "I don't know. I grew up in the back alleys of Seoul. Had to learn to survive." "With who?" Dr. Park pressed. June thought for a moment. "I was mostly alone, except for the stray cats I fed." Dr. Park smiled for the first time in weeks. "Captain, I think those cats might help us save humanity." The other officers looked confused, but June understood immediately. He had spent years watching those alley cats hunt, fight, and survive against much larger threats. Outside the bunker, Seoul burned under mock bombardment. But inside, the first glimmer of hope began to grow. Dr. Soo Park's lab was filled with screens showing brain scans of the mock. For 5 days straight, she had studied how their minds worked. Today, she finally had her answer. "Look at this," she said to Colonel Han. She pointed to a mock brain scan. "Their neural pathways are hyper-optimized for combat. Every move they make is perfect, but that perfection comes at a cost." "What cost?" Colonel Han asked, squinting at the screen. "They can't handle chaos. Their brains are designed to recognize patterns and respond with the perfect counter-move. But when there is no pattern," she smiled, "that's when they struggle." Colonel Han didn't look convinced. "How does this help us?" "We can't beat them in direct combat." "We don't fight like them," Dr. Park said. "We fight like cats." Captain Jum Kim sat in a small room, watching old videos from his childhood. He had recorded them on his father's phone, videos of the alley cats he had befriended. In one video, a small orange cat faced off against a much larger dog. The dog was stronger, faster, but the cat moved in ways that made no sense. It jumped sideways, then froze, then suddenly attacked from an unexpected angle. The dog, confused, eventually gave up and walked away. "That's it," Jun whispered. "That's how they survive." His door opened, and Dr. Park entered with Colonel Han. "Captain Kim," Colonel Han said formally, "Dr. Park has a theory, and you're part of it." Dr. Park sat beside Jun, looking at his video. "Tell me about these cats." Jun pointed to the screen. "They were my only friends growing up. My parents worked all day, so I spent time in the alleys watching them. They taught me how to move, how to survive." "Show me," Dr. Park said. Jun stood and demonstrated how he moved during combat. Unlike traditional military training, his movements were unpredictable, stopping suddenly, changing direction for no apparent reason, attacking from odd angles. Colonel Han watched with growing interest. "This is how you survived the first mock attack." "I think so," Jun said. "They couldn't predict what I would do next because I wasn't following any combat pattern they recognized." Dr. Park's eyes lit up. "The mock are genetically engineered to be perfect soldiers, but perfect soldiers expect enemies to behave logically. Cats don't care about logic. They do what works. So we need to fight like cats." Colonel Han asked, skeptical. "Exactly," Dr. Park said. "Unpredictable movements, fake retreats, sudden attacks from unexpected directions. The mock won't know how to respond." Jun's mind drifted back to his childhood. He was 10 years old, sitting in an alley behind his apartment building. A small black cat with one eye approached him cautiously. "It's okay," young Jun said, holding out a piece of fish. "I won't hurt you." The cat took the food and let Jun stroke its fur. Over the next year, the cat, which Jun named Shadow, taught him many things: how to move silently, how to wait for the perfect moment to act, how to appear weak when you are strong. One day, Shadow faced 3 large rats in the alley. Instead of running away, the small cat arched its back, making itself look bigger. It moved in strange patterns, confusing the rats. Then it attacked suddenly, taking down the lead rat. The others fled. "You're full of surprises," Jun had whispered to the cat. Back in the present, Jun looked at Dr. Park and Colonel Han. "I can teach others to move like this," he said. "But they'll need to forget their military training first." Colonel Han nodded slowly. "I'll give you 20 soldiers to start. If this works." "It will," Dr. Park said confidently. The mock designed themselves to be perfect killing machines against conventional forces. They never considered they might face something as unpredictable as an alley cat. That evening, Jun met his new squad in an underground parking garage converted to a training area. 20 men and women, the best survivors from different units. "Forget everything you know about fighting," Jun told them. "Today, you learn to be cats." They looked confused, but they were willing to try anything to defeat the mock. As June began demonstrating the first movements, he felt hope growing inside him. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't strength or speed. Sometimes it's being unpredictable. 2 weeks after training began, Jun watched his special squad practicing in the converted parking garage. They no longer moved like soldiers. They moved like cats. "Show me again," Jun said to Private Jin, who had survived their first encounter with the mock. Jin nodded and faced a training dummy painted to look like a mock soldier. He started moving forward, then suddenly dropped low and moved sideways. He froze for 3 seconds, then darted behind the dummy in a movement no military manual would teach. He finished with a strike to the back of the dummy's neck, one of the few weak spots Dr. Park had identified on mock anatomy. "Good," Jun said, "but be more random. A cat doesn't plan its moves in advance." Across the room, Dr. Park was working with Lieutenant Da on another aspect of their new strategy. "Cats don't just move differently," she explained. "They use their environment. They know when to hide, when to climb, when to run." Day nodded, then demonstrated by using a broken concrete pillar as cover, but not in the normal military way. Instead of staying behind it, he climbed it, balanced on top, then leaped down when an imaginary enemy passed below. "Perfect," Dr. Park said. "The mock would never expect an attack from above. Their combat programming focuses on ground-level threats." Colonel Han entered the training area, watching the unusual exercises with a mix of hope and doubt. "This looks nothing like military training," he said to Jun. "That's the point," Jun replied. "The mock know how to fight soldiers. They don't know how to fight cats." Colonel Han sighed. "We need results soon. The mock have taken control of most major cities. They're moving into rural areas now." "We're ready for a test," Jun said. "Give us a mission." The next day, Jun's squad, now called Alley Cats, prepared for their first real mission. Their goal was to infiltrate a small mock outpost and retrieve communication devices for Dr. Park to study. "Remember," Jun told his team as they checked their gear, "no standard tactics. Move like we practiced. Be unpredictable. Be patient. Strike only when the moment is right." They wore dark clothing with patches of different materials and colors that broke up their human outline. Their weapons were modified for silent operation. Each carried a small device that could emit sounds at frequencies that Dr. Park believed might confuse mock senses. "This is crazy," Sergeant Min said, but he was smiling. "Fighting aliens by acting like cats. Cats have survived on Earth for millions of years," Dr. Park reminded them. "They're perfect predators in their own way." As night fell, the alley cats moved out, slipping through the ruins of Seoul toward the mock outpost. They didn't move in formation. Each soldier chose their own path, sometimes stopping for no apparent reason, sometimes changing direction suddenly. From his command post, Colonel Han watched their progress through body cameras. "They look disorganized," he muttered. "To human eyes, yes," Dr. Park said. "But that's what will confuse the mock. They expect patterns." At the mock outpost, 4 alien soldiers stood guard. Their enhanced eyes scanned the darkness methodically, looking for threats. Their bodies were still, conserving energy until needed. The first sign of trouble came when a small rock clattered to their left. One mock turned, its movements precise and efficient. It saw nothing. Then a sound came from the right. Another mock turned. Again, nothing. "Possible intrusion," one mock said in its flat voice. "Scanning." But the alley cats weren't following any pattern the mock could recognize. They approached from multiple directions, moving in short bursts, then remaining perfectly still. When they attacked, they didn't charge forward as human soldiers normally would. Private Jin came from above, dropping silently onto a mock's shoulders. Lieutenant Da slid between the legs of another, striking upward as he passed. Sergeant Min appeared suddenly from behind a pile of rubble that seemed too small to hide a human. The Mock tried to respond, but their movements, so perfect against conventional attacks, were too slow to track the chaotic movements of the alley cats. In less than 2 minutes, all 4 Mock guards were down. June's squad entered the outpost, took the communication devices, and disappeared back into the night. When they returned to base, Colonel Han was waiting. "It worked," he said, sounding amazed. "It actually worked." Dr. Park smiled. "Of course it worked. The Mock engineered themselves to fight soldiers. But we have something better than soldiers now. We have cats," June finished. High General Vrex stared at the holographic display showing the latest battle reports. 4 outposts had been hit in the past week. Each time, the guards were taken down with almost no resistance. No alarms triggered. No distress calls sent. "This is not possible," Vrex growled. "Show me the recordings." Sub-Commander Grix activated the security footage from the most recent attack. The images were blurry and fragmented. Human shapes moved in ways that made no sense, darting, freezing, changing direction randomly. "What is this?" Vrex demanded. "Why are they moving like that?" "We don't know," Grix admitted. "It doesn't match any combat style in our database." Vrex slammed his fist on the table, cracking its metal surface. "They are adapting. We must adapt faster." In the human base, Dr. Park analyzed the communication devices the alley cats had stolen. Captain June and Colonel Han watched as she worked. "This is amazing," she said, looking up from her instruments. "The Mock technology is based on their biology. Their computers respond to their specific neural patterns." "Can we use it?" Colonel Han asked. "No," Dr. Park said, "but we can disrupt it." She pointed to a small chip inside one of the devices. "This translates Mock thoughts into commands. If we can create interference." June nodded. "We could blind them. Cut off their communications." "Exactly," Dr. Park said. "And I think I know how." She explained her plan. The Mock relied on precise, structured thought patterns. Their communication systems were designed the same way: clean, efficient, orderly. But what if they introduced chaos into those systems? "Like static on a radio," June said, understanding. "Yes," Dr. Park agreed. "But we need to test it first. Can your alley cats get me inside a larger Mock facility? I need access to their main communication hub." Colonel Han shook his head. "Too dangerous." "It's our best chance," June argued. "And my team is ready." 2 days later, June led his alley cats through the ruins of what had once been a university campus. The Mock had converted it into a command center. Guards patrolled in precise patterns, scanning methodically. "Remember," June whispered to his team, "move like water. No patterns." They spread out, each taking their own path toward the target building. June watched as Private Jin climbed up a damaged wall, moving in short bursts with long pauses, just like a stalking cat. Lieutenant Doug crawled through a narrow drainage pipe too small for the bulkier Mock to follow. Sergeant Min used debris as stepping stones, never touching the main pathways where sensors might detect him. Jun himself chose a route that no soldier would consider, through the open, but moving only when the guards looked away, freezing completely when their gaze passed near him. Inside the command center, Dr. Park had exactly 4 minutes to access the main communication hub. She worked quickly, attaching a small device of her own design to the Mock computer. "It's done," she whispered into her radio. "Pulling out now." As the team regrouped outside, an alarm suddenly blared. They had been discovered. "New plan," Jun said. "Scatter and meet at checkpoint 2. The alley cats immediately broke in different directions, but the Mock were ready this time. They had deployed more guards, covering all obvious escape routes. Jun found himself cornered by 2 Mock soldiers. They approached cautiously, their weapons aimed at his chest. "Surrender, human," one said. Jun looked around. There was no clear escape route. Then he remembered something he had seen Shadow, his childhood cat, do when trapped by dogs. Instead of running away, Shadow had run toward the threat, between the dog's legs, confusing them. Without hesitation, Jun charged directly at the mock. They fired, but Jun was already sliding on the ground between them. He rolled to his feet behind them and kept running while they turned in confusion. Across the campus, the other alley cats were using similar unexpected tactics. When cornered, they didn't surrender or fight head-on. They did the last thing the mock expected. By the time Jun reached checkpoint 2, his entire team was there, breathing hard but alive. The mock are learning, Lieutenant Day said. They almost had us. But they didn't, Jun replied, because we kept changing our tactics. Like cats, we adapt. Dr. Park smiled, holding up the data she had collected. And now we can make our next move. The mock think they've seen our best trick, but they haven't seen anything yet. 6 months had passed since the mock invasion began. The world map in the Human Command Center showed more areas of blue, territory reclaimed from the mock, than anyone had thought possible. Colonel Han stood before the gathered military leaders, pointing to the map. The Alley Cat program has changed everything. We now have 50 squads operating across the globe, using Captain Kim's tactics. The room filled with murmurs of approval. What had started as a desperate experiment was now humanity's best hope. But Colonel Han continued, raising his hand for quiet. The mock are adapting. They're deploying new soldiers with modified neural patterns. They learn faster now. Captain Jun Kim stepped forward. Then we must change faster. Dr. Park has developed something that might give us the edge we need. Dr. Park took the floor, holding a small device. This is what we call the Chaos Box. It sends out signals that disrupt mock neural patterns. Not enough to harm them, but enough to slow their reactions. She turned to a screen showing test results. Combined with our alley cat tactics, this might be enough to launch a real counterattack. Colonel Han nodded. The time has come. Tomorrow, we take back Seoul. Dawn broke over the ruins of Seoul. The city had been under mock control for half a year. Their ships hung in the sky, dark shadows against the morning light. Jun led his original alley cat team toward the primary target, a mock command vessel that had landed in what was once Olympic Park. Around the city, other alley cat teams moved into position, each with their own objectives. Remember, Jun told his team, the Chaos Boxes have a limited range. We need to get close to their command centers. They moved through the city like ghosts, using the ruins as cover. The mock patrols were more alert now, more random in their movements. They were trying to be unpredictable too, but it was not in their nature. As they approached the landing zone, Jun signaled for Lieutenant Da to activate their Chaos Box. The small device emitted no sound or light that humans could detect, but the effect on the mock was immediate. The alien soldiers slowed, their movements becoming less precise. Some shook their heads as if trying to clear them. Now, Jun whispered. The alley cats struck from all directions. Private Jin came from above, dropping onto a mock guard. Sergeant Min appeared from a pile of rubble, striking at a weak point in mock armor. Jun himself moved directly toward the largest group of guards, zigzagging in a pattern that made him almost impossible to track. The confused mock tried to respond, but their genetically enhanced reflexes, their greatest strength, were now slowed by the Chaos Box. Their perfect coordination was broken. Across the city, other alley cat teams were having similar success. For the first time, humans were winning not just small skirmishes but taking control of major mock positions. Inside the mock command vessel, High General Vrex received reports of the attacks. His yellow eyes narrowed as he realized what was happening. They found a way to disrupt our neural patterns, he said to his officers. Activate the emergency protocols. But even the mock command staff was feeling the effects of the Chaos Boxes now placed throughout the city. Their thoughts were slowed, their perfect coordination broken. Deploy the elite guard, Vrex ordered. They have different neural patterns. The elite guard, the most recent generation of mock soldiers, had been modified based on observations of human fighting styles. They were designed to handle chaos better than their predecessors. Outside the ship, Jum saw the ship's doors open. A new group of Mach emerged, wearing different armor than the others. "These look different," Sergeant Min said, concern in his voice. Jude nodded. "Then we need to be different too." He remembered something else Shadow had taught him long ago. When the one-eyed cat had faced an enemy it couldn't beat with normal tactics, it would sometimes do something completely unexpected, like rolling onto its back, appearing vulnerable, then striking when the enemy came close. "New plan," Jones said to his team. "We're going to surrender." The team looked at him in shock, but they trusted him. As the elite guard approached, the alley cats put down their weapons and raised their hands. The Mach elite guard, programmed to handle unpredictable enemies, hesitated. This was too predictable, too easy. They moved cautiously toward the humans, weapons ready. That's when Jum gave the real signal. Hidden in their equipment were smaller, more powerful chaos boxes that Dr. Park had saved for this moment. All at once, they activated them. The elite guard staggered, more affected than the regular troops had been. The alley cats grabbed their weapons and attacked. Even perfect soldiers can be surprised, June thought as he led his team toward the ship's entrance. Especially when they think they've won. The inside of the Mach command vessel was cold and sterile. Captain Jum Kim led his alley cats through narrow corridors, the walls pulsing with strange blue light. They moved carefully, their chaos boxes keeping the ship's systems confused. "This way," Lieutenant Dai whispered, following the ship's map they had stolen in a previous mission. "The command center should be ahead." They reached a large door that wouldn't open to their touch. Private Jin pulled out a device Dr. Park had made to hack Mach systems. "This might take a minute," Jin said, connecting the device to a panel beside the door. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "They know we're here," Sergeant Min said, raising his weapon. Jun shook his head. "No, that's not for us. Something else is happening." The door slid open, revealing not the command center they expected, but a laboratory. Inside were rows of glass tanks filled with fluid. In each tank floated what looked like a Mach soldier, but different, bigger, stronger, with more enhancements visible on their bodies. "What is this?" Sergeant Min asked, eyes wide. Dr. Park's voice came through their radio. She was monitoring everything through their body cameras. "They're creating new soldiers," she said. "More advanced models. They're trying to evolve faster to counter our tactics." Jun stepped closer to one tank. The Mach inside looked almost complete, but its neural pathways, visible through its partially transparent skull, were different from the patterns they had seen before. "They're rewiring their own brains," Jun said, "making themselves less vulnerable to our chaos boxes." A door at the far end of the lab opened. Jun signaled his team to hide behind the tanks. Through the door came a Mach unlike any they had seen before. It was larger, its skin a darker green, its movements somehow smoother than regular Mach soldiers. "Hi, General Vrex," Dr. Park whispered over the radio. "Their Supreme Commander." Vrex approached one of the tanks, touching the glass almost gently. "Speed the process," he said to a scientist Mach beside him. "The humans are adapting faster than predicted. We must evolve now." "The process cannot be rushed," the scientist replied. "Neural reconfiguration requires time." Vrex made a sound of frustration. "Time we do not have. The Mach High Command demands results. They question my ability to crush these primitives." Jun signaled his team to place their remaining chaos boxes around the lab while the Mach were distracted. If they could disrupt this facility, it might slow the production of these new soldiers. As they worked, Jun overheard more of Vrex's conversation. "These humans fight strangely," Vrex said. "Like their small predator companions, unpredictable, chaotic. It offends all logic of warfare. Perhaps that is why they succeed," the scientist suggested. "They embrace chaos while we fight it." Vrex turned sharply. "We are the pinnacle of evolution. We have engineered perfection. We will not be defeated by primitive creatures who cannot even improve their own genetics. When the last chaos box was in place, Jun signaled retreat. They had seen enough, and the information about these new mock soldiers was too important to risk losing. As they slipped out of the lab, Jun thought about what Vrex had said. The mock saw themselves as perfect, and they kept trying to become more perfect. But there was a weakness in that way of thinking. Back at the Human Command Center, Jun reported what they had discovered. Dr. Park analyzed the footage from their body cameras, while Colonel Han called an emergency meeting. They're creating new soldiers designed specifically to counter our tactics, Jun explained to the gathered leaders. But they're not ready yet. We have a window of opportunity. How long? Colonel Han asked Dr. Park. Based on the development stages I saw in those tanks, maybe 2 weeks, she replied. After that, our chaos boxes might not work anymore. Colonel Han looked at the map. Humanity had reclaimed several major cities in the past day, but the Mock still controlled most of the planet. Then we have 2 weeks to strike a decisive blow, he said. Captain Kim, Dr. Park, what do you suggest? Jun looked at the largest Mock ship on the map, the mothership that had arrived first, hovering over what was once New York. We take their heart, he said simply, before they can change it. Dr. Park nodded in agreement. If we can infiltrate their mothership, we might find a way to disrupt their entire command structure. It's risky, but cats are good at taking risks, Jun finished, especially when cornered. The Mock mothership hung above the ruins of New York City like a dark moon. 5 times larger than any other Mock vessel, it was the heart of their invasion force. And now, Captain Jun Kim and a small team of the best alley cat soldiers were about to infiltrate it. This is insane, Lieutenant Dai whispered as they hid inside a small transport ship captured from the Mock. We're 5 humans against thousands of Mock. 6, corrected Dr. Park, checking her equipment. She had insisted on joining this mission, and we're not here to fight them all. We're here for their central command system. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would use the transport ship to dock with the mothership, then find their way to the central computer. Dr. Park believed she could upload a special version of the Chaos Box program directly into the Mock command network, disrupting their entire fleet at once. Remember, Jun told his team, once we're inside, we move like shadows. No unnecessary risks. The transport ship approached the massive mothership. Lieutenant Dai, who had learned to fly Mock vessels, guided them toward a secondary docking bay used for routine supplies. Approaching docking sequence, Dad said, if they ask for codes, we're in trouble. But the codes they had stolen from the command vessel in Seoul worked. The docking bay opened, and their small ship slipped inside the massive mothership. As they prepared to exit their transport, Jun thought of Shadow, his childhood cat. Even the smallest cat could navigate the most dangerous territory if it was careful enough. They would need that caution now. The inside of the mothership was unlike anything they had seen before. The corridors were wider, the ceilings higher. The air had a strange smell, like metal and something organic mixed together. This way, Dr. Park whispered, following a map displayed on her tablet. The central computer should be 20 levels up. They moved carefully through the ship, using their improved chaos boxes to create local disruptions that confused nearby Mock. But they couldn't use them too often, or the Mock would detect the pattern. On level 12, they discovered something unexpected. A massive chamber filled with what looked like growing pods. Inside each pod was a different alien species, none of them Mock. What is this? Private Jin asked, his voice barely audible. Dr. Park scanned the pods with her device. These are the other species the Mock have conquered. They're studying them, adapting their genetic traits. Jun looked closer at one pod containing a tall, thin being with 4 arms. They're not just conquering worlds, they're harvesting genetic material. Like collecting parts, Sergeant Min added, taking what they think is best from each species. Dr. Park's face darkened. and humans would be next. They continued upward, more determined than ever to complete their mission. On level 19, they nearly walked into a patrol of elite guards. Only June's cat-like reflexes saved them, as he pulled his team into a side room just in time. The room turned out to be some kind of control center for the growing chambers they had seen below. Screens showed genetic codes and body structures. "Look at this," Dr. Park said, her fingers moving quickly over a mock control panel. "These are their plans for humanity." The screens showed human bodies, but altered, stronger, faster, with mock-like enhancements. But the human brains were smaller, simpler. "They don't want our bodies," June realized. "They want our unpredictability, but they want to control it." "They can't have both," Dr. Park said. "What makes humans unpredictable is our creativity, our ability to think beyond patterns. If they remove that, then they just get obedient soldiers," June finished. "Not cats." They were about to leave when the door opened. Standing there was High General Vrex himself, flanked by 4 elite guards. "Humans," Vrex said, his yellow eyes widening slightly, the mock equivalent of surprise. "Here, in the heart of our ship. Impressive." June stepped forward, placing himself between Vrex and his team. The elite guards raised their weapons, but Vrex held up a hand to stop them. "I wish to understand," Vrex said, looking directly at June, "how your kind fights the way you do, before we remove that trait from your species forever." June didn't answer. Instead, he looked at his team and blinked twice, their signal for the most unpredictable tactic they had practiced. In an instant, all 5 humans moved in different directions at once. The elite guards, confused by the chaotic movement, hesitated just long enough for June to slip past Vrex and into the corridor. The others followed, scattering in seemingly random directions that actually led them all toward their rendezvous point. After them, Vrex commanded, fury in his voice. They must not reach the central computer. Alarms blared throughout the mock mothership. Red lights flashed in every corridor. June and his team had split up to confuse their pursuers, planning to meet at the central computer room. June moved through the ship alone, using every trick he had learned from watching alley cats. He climbed through narrow maintenance shafts. He hid in shadowy corners, perfectly still until danger passed. He changed direction randomly, never taking the obvious path. Behind him, he could hear the heavy footsteps of elite guards. They were learning, adapting to his movements, but not quickly enough. When June finally reached the central computer room, Dr. Park and Sergeant Min were already there. Lieutenant Dai and Private Jin arrived moments later. "We don't have much time," Dr. Park said, connecting her device to the mock central computer. "The special Chaos Box program needs 3 minutes to upload." "We may not have 3 minutes," Sergeant Min said, pointing to the security screen showing dozens of mock soldiers heading their way. June looked around the room. There were 2 entrances and no good hiding places. They would have to fight to protect Dr. Park while she finished the upload. "Jin Da, take the left door," June ordered. "Min and I will handle the right. Dr. Park, no matter what happens, don't stop until the upload is complete." The first mock soldiers reached the left door. Lieutenant Dai and Private Jin used their chaos boxes at full power, confusing the first wave of attackers. They fought with all the unpredictability they had trained for, never using the same move twice, never establishing a pattern. At the right door, June and Sergeant Min faced High General Vrex himself, along with 4 elite guards. "Impressive," Vrex said, studying June's stance. "Your kind has spirit. That we will keep when we remake your species." "You don't understand humans," June replied. "Or cats. You can't take one part without the rest." Vrex moved with incredible speed, far faster than any mock they had faced before. He knocked Sergeant Min aside and reached for June. But June had spent his life watching cats fight larger predators. He didn't try to match Vrex's strength or speed. Instead, he moved in ways that made no logical sense, dropping to the floor, rolling sideways, jumping in unexpected directions. 1 minute left, Dr. Park called out, her fingers flying over the controls. Vrex roared in frustration as June continued to evade him. "Stand and fight, human." "Cats don't fight fair," Jum said, ducking another blow. "They fight to win." Across the room, Lieutenant Dai and Private Jin were being pushed back by more mock soldiers. They couldn't hold much longer. 30 seconds, Dr. Park announced. Vrex finally cornered June against a wall. His massive hand closed around June's throat, lifting him off the ground. "Your tactics have failed," Vrex said. "This is the difference between your kind and mine. We are perfection. You are merely cats." June struggled to breathe, but he managed to smile. "That's right," he gasped. "We're cats. And cats always have one last trick." At that moment, Dr. Park shouted, "Upload complete." The lights in the room flickered. Throughout the massive ship, all systems began to glitch. The Chaos Box program spread through the mock command network, jumping from ship to ship across their entire fleet. Vrex's grip loosened as his neural implants began to fail. He staggered backward, shaking his head in confusion. All around them, mock soldiers did the same. Their genetically enhanced reflexes and perfect coordination suddenly shattered. "What have you done?" Vrex demanded, struggling to stay upright. "We introduced chaos," Dr. Park explained, pride in her voice. "Your entire fleet is experiencing the same neural disruption, and we've transmitted the weakness to Earth forces." June's radio crackled with Colonel Han's voice. "Captain, all mock ships worldwide are reporting massive failures. Their soldiers are disoriented. It's working." Throughout the galaxy, the 7 other species the mock had conquered sensed the opportunity. They had been watching the humans, learning from their resistance. Now they too began to fight back with unpredictable tactics. Vrex looked at the humans with new understanding. "You are not the prey we thought you were." "No," June agreed. "You engineered yourselves to be perfect killers. But we had alley cats to teach us how to survive." 1 week later, the mock High Command ordered a full retreat from Earth. Their perfect soldiers, defeated by humans who fought like cats, needed to be redesigned. But some things couldn't be engineered. The creativity, the adaptability, the unpredictability that made both humans and cats such successful survivors. June stood on the roof of Seoul Defense Headquarters, watching the mock ships disappear into the clouds. Beside him, Dr. Park looked up at the clearing sky. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. June smiled, thinking of Shadow and all the alley cats that had taught him to survive. "Maybe. But next time, they'll be dealing with a planet full of cats."